Hi, class. Welcome to the week 2 video for PSC 583. Um, in this video, we're going to start discussing step 1 of Bardak and Potashnik's eightfold path to practical policy analysis, right? And step 1 is simply defining the problem. So as you think about problem definition, there are a few questions that I think you always want to ask yourself. The first one seems incredibly simple, but it's worth asking in any rational policy analysis. Um, and it's simply this: whatever the topic is you're working on, is this something that government should be doing? Right? Maybe whatever you're working on is something where the state intervention is actually worse than not intervening at all. Um, it could be that there's a private sector solution out there that's just somehow more efficient or whatnot, or it could be that the intervention has more cons than pros, all things considered. So, one of the first questions you want to ask is like, is this something we should be doing? And I think the second question you want to ask, if it is something we should be doing, you want to ask yourself, why is this something we should be doing? And the answer to that why question should, I think, generally fall into two categories, right? So when you establish, first of all, like, okay, this is something we think government should be doing. There is a problem here that government is the right tool to use to solve. Once you get to that next step, the step, and this is all encompassing step 1, but once you get past that first question, I suppose I should reframe it as the next question you want to ask is, okay, why does this problem need to be solved? And usually the answer to that, like I said, falls into one or two categories. Either there's some kind of a market failure or there's some kind of a government failure, right? At present. So, whatever the problem might be, you might be working on housing or transportation, or you might be working on healthcare or energy, or you might be working on environment or health, or I already said health, rather, or human services. You might be working on agriculture or military issues, whatever it happens to be. First ask yourself, is this something government should be doing? And then ask yourself, okay, why is there a problem here because of the way policy is presently set up with government policy, or is there a problem here because the market simply is not delivering and there's some kind of a failure there? Once you answer that question, I think defining your problem starts to get clearer, right? Okay, first of all, establish this is something government should do. Second, is it something government should do because there's a market failure or a government failure? And then ask yourself, what caused the failure? Right? So now you're asking yourself a third question. And when you start asking yourself what caused the failure, there are myriad answers, right? Maybe in the real world, there's not perfect information, or people aren't acting rationally, or one of the assumptions built into microeconomic analysis just doesn't work in reality in this case for one reason or another. Maybe we just happen to be in the middle of some kind of a giant recession or depression, right? Where the market sort of crumbled and there needs to be government intervention to deal with the immediate term. Maybe beyond a stimulus scenario like that, it's just something where like the market's providing, but it's really uneven. There's lots of people left out. It's expensive. The outcomes aren't good. So there's myriad reasons why you might have a market failure. It could be a monopoly causing the market failure. It could be some problem with supply chains, right? There's all sorts of reasons why you could run into this. As far as government failure goes, there's all kinds of reasons for that too. The existing policy might just be, I don't know, for instance, underfunded, right? So you lack the administrative capacity to deliver the policy effectively. Maybe it's not underfunded, but there's an underlying conceptual problem with the authorization statute or regulation. It's not actively aimed at solving the real problem. It's kind of askew, and you need to redirect resources. It could be just a failure of intergovernmental policy, right? Like where there are times where mayors, governors, and presidents swim in different directions, where state legislatures and city councils and the Congress and Senate swim in different directions. And they're kind of working against each other in one way or another, or one level of government shifted its policy and the other level needs to shift to adapt. That's a common federalism problem, and you can always get governmental failures from problems of federalism. Maybe it's one of the problems where interest groups are really too strong on one side and weaker on another. A lot of times this happens when you have one smaller group that's relatively wealthy and organized and another larger group that's relatively less wealthy and disorganized, such that they don't get the interest group action and lobbying and fundraising together to have their voices heard at the same level as the smaller, more organized, better funded group. So it might be an interest group misalignment. It might just be path dependency. Maybe we've just been doing this for such a long time, but technology changed, populations changed, people moved around, generations have different ideas, and what was working, for a good decade, half century, just no longer fits anymore with where we're at. And that would mean that we need changes as well. So all of these kind of reasons can cause a government failure, right? So to recap that, beginning to define the problem, you want to run through these, and step one, you want to run through these questions. You want to ask yourself, is this something government should even be doing? And then you want to ask yourself, why? Is it a market failure or a government failure? And then ask, what is it about the market or the government that failed? And as you start to drill down, eventually you're going to get to a pretty specific definition of a problem, right? Like as you start answering all these questions to yourself, and you're going to have to start doing research. That's the thing. Even in step one, where you're trying to define the problem, to do it well, you kind of need to start delving into the literature a bit, right? You need to read something about how this policy. You need to learn more about how it actually works on the ground, about why it was implemented in the first place, about what kind of evaluations and other studies have been done upon it. Because if you're going to analyze it, you need to, kind of wrap your head around the whole thing. And if you're saying there's a problem with it that needs to be solved by change or at least you believe there is, then, it's definitely worth stepping back and trying to define that problem as clearly as possible. The more clear you can get it, the easier the rest of the paper and the assignments will be. And by clear, I mean very specific, right? Because you want to ultimately get this down to something as close to, stereo instructions or Lego instructions or something like that as you can. You want, to be able to write your analysis and have somebody be able to follow it. So it doesn't help if you're like, I'm going to say something ridiculous now, but imagine, your policy is we should build a new kitchen table. It doesn't help if you say there should be 4 legs and a tabletop. Okay. Well, should they be metal? Should they be wood? Should the tabletop be flat? Should it be level? Should the legs all be the same length? Should it be round? Should it be square? Should it be rectangular? How high should it be? All of these kind of questions are left totally wide open. You don't actually know how to build the table, right? Never mind, do you need crossbars for stability? Do you need, nuts and bolts? You're going to pre-drill holes? What is it you're going to do? Like, how are you going to put this thing together? Obviously, the more detailed you can be, the easier it is for someone to know exactly what it is you're talking about. So talking in generalities and writing in generalities tends to not be very helpful at this stage. What you really, really do want to do is get as specific as possible. And keeping all that in mind, we're going to move on, and I will see you at week 3.